This is Impact Makers Australia.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. Here is your host.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Impact Makers Australia with your host Danny Gamari. And today I am at this wonderful cafe called All Things Equal. It's located in Carlisle Street, Balaclava, Victoria. And I'm here right now with the one and only, the general manager herself, Bianca Stern. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
And All Things Cafe is not just a cafe. It's a social enterprise that built the bridge between individuals with disabilities with the wider community. Well, they do have a cafe and a cooking school. Am I right? Wonderful. I can't wait to have this interview started. Are you ready?
Sure, I just have a tickle in my throat first. Am I looking here or am I looking here? You tell me.
Yeah, wherever you feel comfortable.
Yeah, with pleasure. That sounds good. I think to be able to have models that already exist that we can learn off and we can learn together are really powerful, because if we all just work in our own silos, it's a waste of resources, right?
Let's kick things off with the origin story of All Things Equal.
Do you want me to give you a bit of background into how we started? Would that be a good way to start?
Yeah.
Sure. So we started beginning of 2021, actually in the middle of the lockdowns in Melbourne.
Oh, really?
And we started because our founder, he has a daughter who was finishing school at a special school for people with autism. And she loves to cook and she loves to bake and she loves to be in the kitchen. But him and his family were concerned about what her future would look like and what opportunities would be out there for her, especially under the employment banner. So he did a whole lot of research and essentially found that if he wanted somewhere for his daughter to thrive, he had to create something that was tailored specifically for her and individuals like her.
Right.
And so he rallied a whole group of people together, and then that was how the idea of All Things Equal began. So we started off as just being a regular cafe, just on a bustling street in the middle of Melbourne. But we really didn't realize the demand for what we were doing and the sheer size of the amount of people that could benefit from training and employment. And so, that was how All Things Equal started. So to date, we've employed over 28 individuals with disability.
Wow, 28.
28.
What kind of disabilities?
So it's very diverse. We don't actually ask the individuals. They don't have to disclose their disability to us, but we do know that we've got some individuals in our network that are autistic, have Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, very diverse. And since we started, we've paid over $400,000 in award wages to those individuals with disability.
Right.
So we know that we're not just changing the lives of the individuals that we're supporting in our cafe and in the other programs that we run, but we're actually changing the lives of every person in that individual's network, their parents, their siblings, their aunts and uncles. We get feedback that our trainees go home and are now more confident sitting at the table for dinner.
Yeah, they bring positive vibe.
Yep, or at dinner when their parents are talking about their day and their job and the different things that came up for them in their work. Our trainee can now be involved in that conversation and share their experience at work for the day. And so we know that people with disability are incredibly capable, and we know that there is so much more that we can be doing as a society to be more inclusive in our workplaces. And so we know that we may not be able to change the employment experience for every person with disability in Australia, but we know that we want to play just a small part, at least in our community in Victoria, because we know that a job is not just a job can change someone's entire life.
Wow, you're doing amazing work, no doubt about it. But I'm curious, how do you envision your efforts, making the biggest possible difference in the lives of many?
That's right. And I think the best way to do that is by connecting people with the community. It's not about putting someone in a back room and doing things sort of behind the scenes, although there are some people that might be really suited for, and that's great. But for us, we really want our trainees to be able to connect with the community and to be able to advocate for themselves through work. So they're, when you're being served by one of our trainees, you were served by Brindley today. We would hope that you will leave knowing that Brindley is really good at what he does, and he's incredibly capable, and he's a good employee who works hard. He's always wanting to improve, and that's all that we can ask for. He's got a good attitude. That's all we can ask for.
Right. Can you elaborate on why you believe that employment is so crucial? Because you are serving individuals 18 years old and older. So you believe that employment give a sense of meaning, not just a financial stability, but also overall well-being.
And people want to work, right? We know that. We know that our trainees, because they've missed out on so many other opportunities in their life, they appreciate the role that they have in this organization, and they appreciate that they're being compensated properly for their work. And so they work really hard because they know that this is a privilege. And it shouldn't have to be a privilege that they have a job, but unfortunately, just where we're at in the world, there are lots of people that do miss out on this opportunity.
Exactly. It sounds like finding meaningful work is actually truly a life-changing for people that you support. Now, can you share an interesting story about someone that you encountered during your work here whose life was transformed through their experience?
That's right.
Yeah.
And being seen as meaningful contributors to the local community. So that when our trainee walks along the street and they see one of their local customers that comes in all the time, they say hi, or they wave, or they smile, and they're now more embedded in the community, and they're seen as a capable member of the community. That's so important. Doesn't happen enough. It's not easy, so it's very difficult. And we need to have the right people on board to make it happen. You need to have support from your local community. You need to have we're a charity, so we have philanthropists and people that make donations to us.
Yes.
We receive government funding.
Now, so All Things Equal project, cafe, and the training school, I suppose it is officially part of the NDIS. How do you think has that partnership impacted your ability to support individuals with disabilities? What kind of support have you received?
Yeah, so we receive funding from the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Right.
And so every one of our trainees, or almost everyone, has funding from the NDIS, and then they can choose how they want to spend their funding. And so our trainees have decided that one of their goals is to have training and work in hospitality, and so they choose to use their funding on us.
Right.
So if it wasn't for that funding, and if it wasn't for the support that we receive from the government funding specifically, we wouldn't be able to provide the one-on-one training that we do provide. So a hospitality trainer training up a trainee, a person with disability, we get to do that because of the NDIS funding that we receive.
Wow. Right. Now, about the work hours for each individuals, because balancing everyone's schedule is like solving a crazy puzzle, I believe. And I wonder, how do you determine how many hours each person's works, and how do you find that people prefer different work arrangements, for example?
Yeah, it's very person specific. When we first started, every one of our trainees was working a 4-hour shift.
4 hours.
4 hours
Per day.
4 hours and 1 to 2 shifts a week.
Oh.
But now we've moved that to 3.5 hours because we've got our hospitality trainers who need to have a break during their day, and so we've had to drop it for that reason. So we have each day we have 2 trainees that work front of house, morning shift and afternoon shift, and then we have 2 trainees that work back of house, morning shift and afternoon shift.
Right. Sounds like a lot of work for you. You have to juggle all the needs of your participants while also complying with the DES regulations. Well, it is a headache. Can you share some of the strategies you have developed to ensure everyone gets a fair shot?
there's always that sort of struggle around providing a quality training experience where someone has more shifts per week or more hours, or do we want to provide more people the opportunity, and so that means that we give less shifts to our individuals. We don't follow any government system like DES or anything like that. We don't do that. So we don't have limitations on the amount of hours that someone can work with us. We just look at the individual as who they are and what they can do. But really, we have, 3.5 hour shifts. That's how it works.
Wow.
More often than not, every person has, 2 shifts a week, usually.
Building such a strong community, I was greeted from the time I step inside and add strong. It's essential for each person's growth.
Yeah. We provide, 3.5 hours, but then we also do, sometimes we'll have events that we run, and so we'll have trainees that will come with us to different events, or we'll go and speak at an event, and our trainee will come and talk. So we do there's lots of different other opportunities that we pay our trainees for, not just for being in the cafe.
Okay, yeah. A career coach sounds like a very valuable asset, right? Bianca, in your experience, how has having a career coach on board benefited your participants? What kind of support do they give on day-to-day training or in work in particular?
Depending on the individual's interests and their needs, you're providing them with the opportunity to decide for themselves what they want to do, how they want to do it, and maybe what career path they want to go down. Because we know that just because we run a cafe, it doesn't mean that every single person with disability has to have a job in a cafe. Yeah. And not every single person with disability wants a career in hospitality. They might just want to give it a try and see if it's for them or not. Yeah. And so that's where we're limited, because we only work within one industry, just hospitality. But we know that with what you're doing, that's really powerful, because it's allowing people to have lots of different experiences.
Okay. So your employment pathway program, it's clearly successful. Can you walk us through the steps involved in getting someone job ready? What kind of training or requirements and support do you offer?
So we have 84 people on our wait list right now with disability who are dreaming of likely their first ever paid job.
Okay.
And we don't have 84 spots available right now to offer them in the cafe. So we have an employment pathway model, which means that people start off in unpaid training in our cooking school, where they're learning skills, they're learning the foundational skills of working or being in a commercial kitchen. So they're learning about health and safety, they're learning about cooking different recipes, they're learning how to work in a team, they're learning how to take on instructions, they're learning how to listen to a manager, lots and lots of different skills being developed there.
Interesting.
And then the goal with that is that we have some of those individuals that we then move into our cafe, front of house or back of house into the kitchen.
Right.
And then we move the individuals that are working with us in the cafe into open employment, into more mainstream employment down the track.
Oh, wow.
So we don't want to be a workplace that people stay here forever.
No.
We want to be a workplace that we train up people. They're paid appropriately for the work that they're doing and that they're contributing to. And then we support them to move on into the open labour market and to be even more capable contributors into regular society in Melbourne.
Yes. Well, for everyone, every single person, I believe that transitioning to a new workplace can be daunting, right? What kind of support system do you have in place for participants who are ready to take the next step? How do you ensure a smooth handover to the next employer? So now they're with you, by one point that will quote-unquote graduate, and you have to hand over them to another workplace. What kind of support system that you provide to ensure this smooth transition?
So that's the model that we're still developing out as we speak. So but how it will likely work is that a trainee will still be supported by a hospitality trainer while they transition into their new role, because we know that the first 6 months of a role is the time when lots of different things can come up, different challenges, struggles. You might not know how to communicate appropriately with each other. So we know that if we have a all things equal trained hospitality trainer who knows the trainee really well, they can support them in their new job, and they can be the middle person between the trainee and the employer, work through all the different things that come up. And then the goal is that we eventually move the hospitality trainer away and that the trainee can be even more independent.
Yeah. The first few weeks in a new job, it's overwhelming, I believe. So it makes sense that people would need extra support, right? Especially during that adjustment period. Can you share to me about the challenges new employees often face, and how do you help them overcome those barriers and challenges?
Right. So that's perfect. And we know that there needs to be support there to start with. Some people might not want the support, and that's totally okay. But if they do want the support, we know that's pivotal to working out just those small little things, because what can sometimes happen, especially with certain government initiatives, is that you get someone into work and the employer will take them on because they're getting money for it. They're getting paid, they're getting a subsidy.
Right.
But then at the end, when the subsidy is over, then they say, here are all the problems. Here's all that didn't go well.
Right.
We don't want that to happen. We want this to be a long-term job. We want this to be a career for someone, sustainable. And so we will only support someone to move on into a new role if it's award wage employment, if they're getting paid properly, and if they're treated properly, and it actually works for the other employer. If it's not working for the other employer, well, then this relationship just isn't going to work. It's really important that we have a solid, trusting, really good open communication relationship with everyone in our network, but particularly with the employer who is bringing on someone new that they may not have ever worked with before.
Yeah. So I sense that building strong partnerships with another employer is key to success of your overall program, right? Now, can you share some of the challenges you have encountered in managing expectations and overcoming obstacles along the way?
It's just about setting really solid expectations and a standard from the beginning about here is where we are able to support and where we're happy to support. And then here's when we might have to trickle away a little bit and leave it up to you. So being really clear with the goals and the outcomes and the intentions from the start is really important. And we've learned that the hard way, that with families as well, if we are really explicit and direct from the beginning, everyone, it just makes sense.
Right.
A quote that I always use when I'm training up any of our new team members is a Brene Brown quote, and it says, clear is kind and unclear is unkind. If we're clear
is kind.
If we're clear and we're direct and we're honest and we've got good communication with any of our stakeholders, we're going to be able to have success. If things are muddled up and sort of in that gray area, it could be a lot more difficult.
Wow. So, I mean, it's fantastic. You're not only finding jobs for people, but also changing or training or upgrading attitudes. Now, how do you go about educating employers, on the other hand, about the value of hiring individuals with disabilities? Any success stories that you can share, perhaps?
We want employers to be hiring people with disability because our society is diverse.
Right.
While our workplace is not as diverse as our society is,
No.
we want employers to be hiring people with disability because it's mutually beneficial, because they can benefit and the individual with disability can benefit. We want people with disability to be hired because and have jobs because they're good at what they do. It's literally as simple as that.
Yes.
And I think there's an education piece there that we need to be working on as a society.
Shifting mindsets can be always tough, actually, right? Do you have any memorable experiences where you have been able to completely change someone's perspective about disability?
So we have one, we had a trainee of ours who was told by a government system in Australia that he was not fit to work. He went through all the different processes that he had to do with Centrelink and all different things. And they said, you have got too many barriers to employment. You are not fit to have a job.
Oh, no.
He got a job with us. He got paid.
Yep.
He was mentored by our chef. He developed such amazing skills.
Wow.
He became more independent. He became more confident. He became more responsible. He became more punctual. He had better professional presentation, all those things.
Ooh.
And then one day his mum gave me a call and she said, Bianca, Adam can't come to work this week. And I said, what's going on? Is everything okay? And she said, he's actually secured himself a full-time job in a school canteen.
Wow.
So the government, the system told him, you have too many barriers to employment.
Right.
And yet he's got himself a full-time job. What does that tell us about the power of all things equal?
Right.
And the power of inclusive employment opportunities and training opportunities like this and like what you're doing?
It's amazing.
And then what does that tell us about what more we have to be doing from an education piece and to be reshaping how we view people with disability because this individual may have had a couple of barriers to employment, but that did not mean that those walls couldn't be broken down. He just had to have a door being open for him. That was all it was.
Whoa.
That was literally, and all things equal did that.
Wow. Bianca, your work is inspiring. We'd love to have you share your insights at our future conference, I'd say.
Amazing. Would love that. That would be really, really great. Yeah.
Running any organization comes with its challenges, right? So I wonder, what are the biggest challenges that you are facing at the moment? And how are you working to overcome these challenges?
I think our main challenge is we want to be a sustainable social enterprise. So we don't want to be relying too much on donations, government, grants. We want to be sustainable and we want people to be coming in here because we make good food and good quality coffee and our catering, because it's good catering.
Oh, you have catering
we
as
do
well.
Lots of catering.
Oh.
So we want to be sustainable, and that's going to be a consistent challenge forever where because we run a business with a social lens, there's always more costs associated with running something like this with all the training that goes on.
Yeah.
In a cafe, you don't usually have a CEO, a general manager, an HR manager, an operations manager, a cafe manager, and a head chef.
Right. How about yourself? What steps are you taking to ensure the long-term success of All Things Equal here?
Some other challenges, not a challenge, just something that we're working on at the moment is developing relationships with open employers.
How do you maintain a strong team culture and ensure that everyone is working towards the same goals?
Yeah, education, training, educating the employers on why it's mutually beneficial, why this individual is an absolute asset to your business, all those sorts of things.
It's been a real pleasure to talk with you, Bianca.
Oh, that's awesome.
Listeners, this is Bianca Stern with me, your host, Danny Gamari.
Amazing.
We'll catch you next time.
Thank you. See you later.
This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.